Dear gamers,
Impressive cop.
howdy sports fans, are you good? And a happy new year. I hope you enjoyed a decent end to what was a very Lethal Weapon 4 kind of year for everyone. So despite all the controversy, despite all the mishaps, despite all the missteps, despite all the bad feedback, bad reviews, Cyberpunk 2077 is still doing absolute gangbusters on Steam. It has been residing in the top 10 quite comfortably and smashing a few records in the Steam chart since its release on November 10th, which is almost a month ago. As I record this on December 4th, it is currently in 4th place in the top 10, which is pretty crazy for a single player game, especially when you look at all the games that surround it. At the time of recording, Cyberpunk 2077 has 115,000 players on Steam, bested only by PUBG. Wow, that's still really going, oh my word. Dota 2, Counter-Strike, and that's it. I forgot how many things were in 4 then. 1, 2, 3, 4. I expected another one after that, but no. Counter-Strike is the most popular game on Steam with 685,000 players. But back to my point. Cyberpunk is not only sitting in the top 10, but it's also looking like it's going to stay there for quite some time, which I think is virtually unheard of for a single player game. Most single player games on Steam tend to land pretty hot and then fizzle out pretty quickly and then kind of steadily do okay. Games like The Witcher 3 have been around the top 50 for the last 5 or so years, but otherwise they don't tend to be right up there at the top for more than a week or even a few days sometimes. But Cyberpunk, just under a month later, is still hanging in there and still going very strong despite everything. It's also had a frankly insane peak player base ever since it launched on Steam. Out of the top 10 most played games on Steam currently, only Counter-Strike Global Offensive CSGO to you and I has more peak players in its complete history with over 1 million. Even GTA 5, which is a cultural monolith that just refuses to die but needs to at some point so we goddamn get GTA 6, has only managed 250,000 peak players on Steam. So what does this say about all the review bombing, all the negative publicity about Cyberpunk? Has it actually really even mattered that much? And what does it say about review bombing and mixed review scores and user scores and critical reviews in general? As we've seen with The Last of Us Part 2 and Pokemon Sword and Shield, that negative feedback from the community does not necessarily mean the death knell for a big game. In fact, it might have even done Cyberpunk some good, just based on how often it's been in the news cycle, how much people talk about it, and how that curiosity leads people to try the game out for themselves. I mean, people's nans have been asking their grandchildren, what the hell is Cyberpunk? Why are the BBC talking about Cyberpunk? Cyberpunk has been literally everywhere for the past month. It's also worth bearing in mind that the PC version of Cyberpunk 2077 is pretty much okay as far as optimization and performance goes. In fact, it can be quite a beautiful and well-performing game. Whereas on PS4 and Xbox One, it can kind of resemble C12 Final Resistance, which led to it getting pulled from store shelves and also refunded to those who wanted it. But it hasn't been without some controversy on PC or no matter which platform it is on. Cyberpunk 2077 has some pretty terrible AI, so much so that they disappear instead of wanting to think about stuff, an absolute smattering of bugs and glitches, and also a ton of promised features that just never saw the light of day or got quietly cancelled along the way and never got mentioned again. Or how's about the fact that they made such a big deal about all the life pass and then it's literally a 15-minute thing at the start and then sometimes you go, hey, what's the commotion here at other points in the story? It doesn't make any sense and it doesn't matter. Or could it be that just despite all of that, despite all of its problems, despite all of its issues, despite all of the nonsense, that Cyberpunk, deep down, is actually quite a good, enjoyable game, and that people are genuinely having a good time with it? Or could it be that people just don't put a lot of stock in reviews at all? That so many people now are so committed to their opinion on something before they've even played it or seen it that they just kind of just don't care about reviews anymore, whether that's from professional reviewers or their own fellow dear gamers. Personally speaking, Cyberpunk 2077 now. Cyberpunk 2077 is a fascinating video game. I had this game crash on me, and I'm not exaggerating here. I don't want you to think I'm being dramatic for effect, but it crashed on me 40 times. 40 times on PS5 when I played it and completed it. I played and went and reloaded and did all the different endings when I played Cyberpunk 2077 on my PS5, it was a mess. There were so many problems beyond that. There were bugs and glitches. They even did a whole compilation, which you can probably watch right now in the background of this. As well as that, the open world was pretty lacking. It was a bit bland. There wasn't really much personality to it. The gangs were pointless. The role-playing wasn't really there, or really there as heavily as it should have been. The perks didn't make a lot of sense. Progression felt a bit stilted. There was absolutely no sense of balance in any of it. Content felt obviously cut out. And you can't get a haircut or change your tattoo at any time, which for a game that's all about themes of changing your appearance to match into society and all of that is a bit bizarre. But despite all that, despite all of the things wrong with it, it's still one of my favourite games of 2020. It's so strange. I loved the combat, I loved the story, I loved some of the quests were really excellent. None of them are up there with Bloody Baron, but there are some things like guys, I think it was this hamster went missing, the side quest with Johnny, and dropping absolute everything the second Pan Am comes calling. I think there's a lot to like overall about Cyberpunk 2077. So much so that you can almost overlook all of the bad stuff, and I mean all of it. And I just think it's a game that kind of, the hype carries it through all of its controversy, and we've never really seen a game this big, this controversial in the past, and that's also in such high demand, and I think it's a combination of everything. I think one thing's for certain though, we're probably going to be talking about this game until 2077. What do you think of Cyberpunk 2077? Have you been surprised that the review bombing doesn't seem to have done everything? Everything. Fix everything. Fix world hunger. Fix Pokemon. Be sure to let me know down below, and thank you for watching.